So welcome to our event today, Crafting an Online Presence That Sells. My name is JD, I'm the CEO here at Imprimo. I'll take a second to introduce Imprimo and then I'll pass it to John, who will tell us a bit more about Cosimo. And then after that, we'll come back to me, who will give you a quick presentation on how to craft an online presence that sells before going to our fireside chat, where John and Caitlin will join me. So a quick introduction on Imprimo. Imprimo is a centralized hub where artists can come and manage their career, whether that is your online presence, whether it is minimizing the amount of administrations that is associated with your career. We make managing your data and your presence easy so that you can spend more time in your studio doing the things that you like. So we're not a marketplace. That's why we partner with Cosimo, who is doing quite a great job at that. So with that, I will open it up to John, who will tell us a little bit more about himself as well as a little bit more about Cosimo. So John, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, JD. Let me just get some slides up. But no, really great to be here today. It's a really nice kind of opportunity to see some familiar faces. So obviously, Caitlin is a member of our community, and I know there's a couple of others here as well. But also to kind of meet some new people, spread the gospel about what we're up to at Cosimo, and also partnering with Imprimo's really exciting. We love what they're doing, and I think we're tackling a lot of the same problems. So yeah, my name's John. I'm the founder and CEO at Cosimo. Like JD said, we really are here to look after the buying and selling side of being an artist, and on the other side, obviously, being a collector. But for you guys today, obviously, it's really about helping you think about how you're going to sell your work online, and present yourself online. And we're trying to do our bit in that process as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about us. I think we're going to dive into some of the background and stuff as well later on. So hopefully throughout the course of the session, you'll get a really good overview of what we're all about. But I like to kind of always kick things off by explaining the name Cosimo. Some people know what it's about. Some people get the reference. I did art history at university, so it's a little nod to that. Cosimo de' Medici, often considered to be the founding father of the Renaissance. He was a really successful businessman and political leader, but also a patron of the arts, and that was the thing that really gave him satisfaction in his life. And that's something that we're always thinking about that when we're working on the platform, and how we can support artists is thinking about not only how we can create lots of new Cosimos, so people that are going to be out there being patrons of your work, collecting your work and supporting you guys and making that process really easy, but also how we can kind of give back and make sure that we're empowering you guys to sell your work. So, in many ways, the platform is a very straightforward marketplace. It's been designed to be as easy to use as possible. Like most marketplaces, you'll be able to get your own portfolio, basically, and then the transactions happen directly and securely through the site. Where we're different to most other platforms, though, is that it's free to sign up and start selling your work. And by free, we mean you can sell without any commission fees and without any membership fees, at least to get started. And then if you want to add in more tools, so if you want to basically be able to see deeper analytics of how many people are looking at your work, or if you want to have more advanced listings, so if you want multiple sizes on your listings, that sort of thing, you can start to pay a subscription. So obviously we often get asked, it's all well and good, no commission. I know there's a few other kind of platforms out there, but how do you guys kind of make it work? But the subscriptions is a really big part of that for us. But also we are different to a lot of other platforms in that we also facilitate the shipping and we charge the buyers for that, which I think is a really important thing. We might come on to this into another session, actually, I think, but charging the right sort of amount for your shipping is really important. Too many artists undercharge, they end up losing money on the shipping. We're trying to make sure that that's done properly, and then everyone can see what's happening through that process and it can all get tracked. So the process, sign up in a couple of minutes, list your work, very straightforward. We've tried to make that as simple as possible. We then connect you with art lovers through our matchmaking tech, which we're hopefully going to be expanding soon. Hopefully more good news on that in the not too distant future. But then we, like I say, we connect directly with the buyers, really simple and safe and secure checkout process. We're partnered with Rift as well, who are a payment provider, and they make sure you get paid out very quickly. And like I say, we sort the artworks, shipping, so that everyone is safe and secure. And we've got a returns policy within that to help you guys as well, give you that confidence, which is something that's important, which we'll come on to as well today. But just to give you a sense that it is working. I think a lot of artists get skeptical when new marketplaces pop up. I know it's a lot of effort to get onboarded onto a new platform, for example. So we're always on hand to give you a helping hand with that. But also just know, both on the buying and selling side, people are doing so in volume. Phil's a really great example. Peter is someone who's been a repeat buyer over the last year. And we're starting to see even more of that as well. So just to give you a little bit of confidence that that we are selling, and hopefully we can help you sell your work as well. So yeah, feel free to check out the platform, have a look around yourself. I know there's probably people from outside the UK here today. We are currently only able to sell in the UK, but if you can reach out to us and let us know where we should come to next, where the demand is, that would be really really useful as well. But feel free to reach out to me at admin at Cosimo as well if you've got any questions. But thanks for the opportunity to do my spiel there, JD. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with everyone as things go on today.
Amazing. Thanks so much, John. And I know, talking to hundreds of artists over the last couple of years, many artists are looking for platforms that allows them to have more flexibility on the commission side of things. So quite great to have you guys come in and support the artists. So with this, I'll share my slide decks now for our next quick presentation. Just give me one quick sec here. Okay. So crafting an online presence that sells. So what are we going to talk about today? Establishing your brand as an artist, the content creation process, creating a following of collectors, and how to network online. So we tried to tackle as many of the important topics that artists are interested in and understanding more. So one of the important talk is, there is a very strong importance for the role that galleries will play in the art ecosystem. Today, we're looking at a different avenue. So we'll talk a lot of all the things that are related to online. We'll have some follow-up sessions that are more related to gallery, but today is very focused on online presence and online sales. So the first thing is, you can't be everything to everyone. So when you start your career, when you start as an artist, you need to define who's your target market. What does that mean? How old are they? Where do they live? Where do they consume their content? Is the target market buying online? And what's their favorite way to interact with them? And let me give you some example of what that might mean. If you are making landscape art, some region are super bullish on that and they love it, and some other region, that's just not for them. So you're really understanding, for your type of art, is there a local jurisdiction that makes more sense, that I should go and build an audience there? Is there an age group? Is some people over the age of 55 tend to like more of my art for XYZ reason versus, my art is more for 35 years old. That will have a very significant impact on where those people are. If they're over 55, you're probably going to find them on Facebook, and therefore you might want to look at a platform like that. And if they're on the average of 35 years old, well, you might want to gravitate to a platform like TikTok. So understanding who your market is will help you streamline your effort, have a lot more impact, and not be wasting your time on every platform out there trying to be everything to everyone. So you got to make a decision. Who do you think is, one, who has the disposable income to buy the art at the price you want to sell it? Who's interested in the type of work that you do? What do they look like? If you look at your last 5 buyers, they're probably a good indication of your next 5. The more that you figure out on your target market, the more that you can have language, visuals, and so on that appeals to them, and have more traction. So establishing your personal brand, that will come once you understand your target market. You'll have a better idea. Do I need something young and vibrant, or do I need something classy because I tend to have a specific type of audience, or so on? Once you understand your audience, it will impact your personal brand. It shouldn't necessarily dictate it, but it should have an impact. Knowing your audience is important when you look at your communication. Your branding is going to start from the colors you're using, to the font, to the size of the font, to the headshot you're using. Some of the most common mistakes that we see is artists having different avatar or headshot on all platform with completely different branding, because they're very creative and they like the adventure into this. But as an art lover, you come there and it looks like they're different individuals. And a lot of names, you know, it may sound like they remember your name, but for all you know, they might be seeing 100 different artists' name when they first catch yours, and all of a sudden it becomes difficult. Personal branding should be consistent across platform so that you share your message in a uniform way. So whether they find you on Instagram, on TikTok, or on your website, they know that this is the same person, the same message is being communicated. Staying on brand, staying consistent is very, very important. Over time, it might change, right? But you should be consistent from one time to the other, and over time see the evolution. But a lack of consistency on branding usually leads to lack of engagement over time. Your artist profile. So this could be, you know, this is where you want to send your viewers when you meet them to get to know who you are. So we built Imprimo to solve a lot of the challenges that we've seen. When we look at artists who has websites under Instagram or so on, we saw a lot of different challenges when it's associated to sharing your who you are as an artist and your background and so on. So we built Imprimo to facilitate all this, but to highlight the important point that should be there, whether it's your Imprimo profile, your website, your Instagram, it doesn't matter where. Art is local. Most people will buy art within their jurisdiction for a series of reasons. Shipping alone is a good reason to be focusing on local market. But if you step outside of that, you know, you're going to start to see different interests elsewhere. And if you're from a small region somewhere in the UK, the people around you are most likely to support you than the people who are very far away from where you are. So art is local. If they don't know where you're from, that could be the reason that they don't go any further. If someone is in Korea and I'm out here at the other end of the United States, that could be a very expensive shipping cost for a painting that far exceed the value of the painting. Therefore, I'm not going to move forward. If they know you're local, all of a sudden you're moving in the right direction. If they don't know where you are, it could be a black box. They may never go any further. Art collector wants to know more about who you are, sharing about your progress, what's happening in your career. This is one of the challenge with Instagram is although you see a lot of very visually appealing things, it doesn't really create a story, an evolution of things, and it tends to be a lack of consistency. So someone comes and very lots of dopamine and they see your beautiful work, but it doesn't necessarily cue them up for the evolution of this. There's ways to tackle that, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But showing the progress, the in progress photos, quite important to create that engagement. Art is a bit of an acquired taste. The more you see it, the more you like it. The more you get to know about the artist, the more you like it. So give them an opportunity to get to know you slowly. You know, it's not because you see an image one time that you're sold, but if I see the evolution of this artwork over time, I'm going to be drastically more interested to buy it. Make it easy to contact you. Many artists, you know, their contact me part is buried in the footer. It's on a completely different page on the website. It's not easy to access. Once again, you make it hard for them to contact you. You know, that's the impact. If you want to be contacted as your main call to action, artists go on your website, it should be everywhere. It should be everywhere that they can go. It should be easy for them to contact you. You know, they see it. You want the moment that they see what they like to have as little friction as possible to contact you. Any hesitation that they have to look on your website, they may click on one place, they don't find it, they could have abandoned the search right now. You want to make it easy. Contact me should be front and center. And then give a review, an overview using a short, concise bio. Some bios are very long, right? You may want to have a summary and then having a long bio because some long bio has a lot of very important context. But keep in mind, most people attention span is like 8 seconds. So if you have to read a very long bio, the likelihood is they won't. So keeping that in mind, make sure your first few sentences create some pick their curiosity and want them to read a bit further. Content distribution. So we talked about audience. You know, if my average buyer is 55 years old, don't spend your time on TikTok. It's a waste of time. You will not convert 55 years old on TikTok. Just like if you're looking to convert 25 years old, you're going to have a hard time on Facebook. Most of them have abandoned that platform a long time ago. So it's important to know you should put your effort where your audience is. You should go meet them where they are. And then from there, you should understand the type of content that you can create. Let me just make sure, yeah, topic content. I cover that in a second. But the distribution is important, whether that's within a Facebook group, on Reddit, whether it's a newsletter, virtual event, in-person event, all kinds of different distribution channel, not just online. Distribution channel means, how am I going to let the world know about what's happening in my life, what's happening with my art, and keep them up to date so that they're on the edge of their seat to know what's happening next to me. You got to find a handful of distribution channel and own them. If you're trying to do 5, 6, 7, well, now you're in the marketing business. You're no longer in the art business. You're going to spend all your time online trying to reach people. Find a handful of them, make them work for you, and spend the time to find out which one works so that you don't spend all your time, spread so thin at doing all kinds of effort that really doesn't end up paying a lot. Type of content. I would say this is very important and very easy to increase your engagement. Short in progress photo. This could look like you're making a painting. You could say in 5 different steps. Step 1 is my sketch. Step 2 is my progress. It might be zooming into the process to show some close up, and then the final post, of the final artwork. You could release this over the period, one every week for a period of 5 weeks, creating a lot of engaging content, teasing your users or viewers about what's coming next, creating that curiosity and therefore creating more engagement. In progress photos are like 5-1 versus completed work on interactions. So really spend the time to get in progress photo. That's what people want to know. What material did you use? Where's the inspiration? Where do you get this? They want to know that. Short videos, 10 to 15 seconds max. 2 minutes videos, nobody's watching that. Very short. You don't need to say everything. Here's my artwork. Here's what it means to me. I had the inspiration on this. Hope you like it. Let me know. Simple as that. Close up of you painting, close up of you using your technique, 3 seconds, lots of engagement. Not everything has to be a completed thought. They want to see what you're doing, just have a visual. You could take your iPhone, shoot 5-10 seconds videos. You're in a studio for a day, you got 20 videos, all of a sudden you got lots of content. Photos of you at your art shows and exhibition. They want to see you engaged. They want to know you're real. They want to know that you're having exhibitions, that there's people who are interested in it. Showing photos of that is quite important. Photos of your inspiration. Everybody's going to follow you is quite creative. If you're creative, the first question you have is, I wonder how they got there. Because also you're trying to get that kind of inspiration. So showing yours is going to drive a lot of interest. Let's talk about Instagram, because it's quite important. I think most artists are on Instagram. The biggest mistake I see is people use Instagram as a sales platform. It's not a sales platform. It's meant for connection. And the reason for that is it is completely built around creating social connection, not necessarily to have a consistent flow. If you are not posting every single day on a consistent basis, you're going to fall way back on the algorithm, and then you're going to see having some challenges in the sales. Number 1. Number 2, people aren't there to buy. They're there to view, they're there to learn, they're there to engage. So if you come across as salesy, you're also going to have some difficulty. So a few different angles here. 1, it's not really what the audience is looking for. 2, the algorithm is favoring short, frequent posts, not really salesy approach. So what you could do, and I touched on that quickly, but just rehashing it, lots of in progress photo, short videos. Use a scheduler. There's lots of tools online that are free where you can set your posts in advance. I suggest doing 2 weeks in advance of content. And this could be all kinds of things. Photos of your previous show, in the past, here's what I did, here's what I like, here's about a trip that I did to inspire my creativity, whatever. You lay out your content 2 weeks in advance. That way, no matter what happened, I'm going to have a post every day and the algorithm is not going to start causing me issue. On top of that, if you want to create new posts that are more spontaneous, you can supplement your scheduled content with that and create more engagement. But that, you got your bases covered. You spend a couple hours on a weekend, you created some content, short videos and pictures, and then you know that your viewers are going to get content every day for the next 2 weeks. You can set and forget about it and go do what you like, which is making art. Email marketing. So this is kind of the strategy. Use Instagram to build, your audience, and as quickly as possible, move your viewers over to your mailing list so that you can actually use a mailing list as a sales tool. And that's the best strategy. You have a mailing list somewhere into your bio and Instagram and say, join my mailing list for more update on what's happening in my career. And then you have a list of users who are engaged, they want to be there, otherwise they would have not subscribed. And then you're able to build connection with them. And you can afford to be more salesy with these individuals because they've said that that's what they're interested in, and they expect that from such type of initiative, right? So very easy way to turn your followers into kind of collectors or more engaged followers at the very least would go a very long way. So again, easy to contact you. You got to figure out what your goal is. What do I want to achieve with this message? I want people to contact me. That should be front and center at the top, not at the bottom of the email. Contact me, then go. Maybe your name and a photo of you, contact me, and then everything else will come below. The most important part should always be at the top. And then you can say something like, here's the shows that I have coming, here's some recent artwork, and here's some things that are happening in my personal life that I want to share with you guys. That content is all type of content that the collectors are going to want. One of the important part about marketing, just make sure. So one important part about marketing by email is, unlike print, most people's eyes get tired very quickly, right? So what you see here is probably as far as you want to go. You have a short paragraph that's easy to read, but by the time you get to the end of this paragraph, if I had a second one, I'd say more than 50% of them would not read it. So then I have a formatting where I have a short paragraph, probably asking the average viewer to scan this and use a lot of their computing power to do this, but then I give them a very easy to digest. Here's 3 things that have inspired my work, and then either bullet or numbers, which makes this information very easy to digest. The eyes get tired when you look at the screen. We want to make it very easy to capture the information. So don't write very long thoughts inside your email. Short, you want to keep no more than 4 lines at a time. Otherwise it becomes very difficult to read. A lot of people, especially someone who might be older, their eyes might not be as good. It can be very difficult to read on your phone. So you want to simplify your thoughts on what you want to share. You're not there to tell them your whole life story. You're there and tease them about this, tell them a few things, and then if they're interested, they'll connect with you to have a deeper conversation. The most important thing, and that's for everything, not just your newsletter, be consistent, right? Start small, grow from there. I'll save the email, but the same goes with social media. The worst thing that can happen is you start strong and then you stop, right? If I start sending newsletters every week, and then I get overwhelmed and I go to once a month, I will see my audience erode completely, and eventually nobody's going to be opening my messages because they got used to this frequency. Now it's walking away, it's sending all the wrong signals. If you start at once a month, and then over time you work to once every 2 weeks and once every week in the future, once you know you have the capacity to upkeep that, then you'll be in a better position. Same thing with your Instagram. Start small, slowly increase, pick the same time every day, schedule your content, make your life easy. It might need a bit more preparation in the front end, but it's going to have a dramatic impact on how much time you actually spend. Being organized is important, and having a plan is important. So, simply another point is increase your reach, right? So you're only one person, you only know so many people. You can go and connect with the people in your universe, whether those are, existing artists that you might want to partner with them to increase your reach, be able to touch some more people. Maybe you have a group exhibition, maybe you partner with the photographer where, you can have some collaboration. Maybe you just share each other's work on social media and so on, and try to do some collaboration. But use your universe. Ask people, everybody that should be sharing a bit more about your career and help you go a bit further. The free publicity is the platform, the podcast, the blogs, the press. A lot of these content creators, they need content. They want to know about the local artists, especially very local news outlets or podcast provider and things like that. This could be a great opportunity. Many of these things can be free, and it can help you reach some new audiences. there's going to be some work involved. That's certainly a cost in itself, but it's certainly worth it. And then finally, you can have paid advertising, which is Facebook ads, print ads, and so on. And then from there, there's certainly a real cost associated to that, and you need to be maybe a bit more confident in your ability before spending the money on the ads, because they can certainly rack up quick. But it's definitely an effective way to reach new audiences. So networking, like I talk about the collaboration with photographers or other artists, or co-marketing effort with other artists, as well as introducing yourself to galleries. Introducing yourself to galleries does not look like knocking on your door and say, I'm an artist, put my work up on the wall, but more like getting to know them over time, seeing if your work fits what they're saying, what they're showing, and if it's not, maybe they know someone that show works like yours. And if they're not showing works like yours and they're saying, that's not something that they will, then it's probably not worth continuing spending time with that person. However, building relationship with them might open up doors to other galleries that they know, and so on. So there's always a place there to focus on that, but very casual. These relationships will build over time. Many of the time they have a lot of artists for their next year or so of shows. So don't be surprised if you meet them today and this only yields some results as much as 2-3 years later. But as the name of the game, the conversations you have today will pay in the future, and if you do this, you'll have a long, sustainable career. So that's the end of our presentation that we have on how to build an online presence that sell. I know we touch on a lot of things. Like I said, this video is recorded. You'll have access to it after if you want to rewatch it. If you have any questions, you can always send us a message, info@imprimo.art. My colleague Aiden's going to put that in the chat. We're always here to help. We'd love to have you all join us on Imprimo. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, we'll keep the questions for the end. Please write it down. You can write them in the chat. We'll make sure we answer them at the end. But with that, I will invite our two guests, John from Cosimo and Caitlin, to come join me on stage, and we will start our panel discussion.
Hi,
Caitlin, you're here? Great. Awesome. Okay, just give me 2 seconds. Perfect. So, John, we heard a bit from you on Cosimo, but what we didn't hear is why you got started. So why don't you take a few seconds and tell us more about how you got started, and then we'll hear a bit more of Caitlin's story.
Yep, no, absolutely. So, as I said earlier, I was studying art history at university. Probably that before that, starting that track, because I really did want to be an artist, but didn't quite fancy having to struggle away to make a living. So I think that's probably why I ended up trying to help artists to do that. But ironically, art history wasn't much of a better prospect, economically speaking. So it wasn't the smartest decision in that sense, but it was great because through that I began to work in the kind of commercial art sector, particularly worked at a local gallery back home. And I think it's really interesting what you were saying about the kind of locality of art and the interest in that, because one of the things that really triggered my decision to pursue this was I was working in a small gallery in this tiny little village. We didn't have enough wall space for all the artists around that wanted to get on. I also did some work with an art trail nearby, and there were just loads and loads of artists in this tiny little space. And I was like, it's a shame that they're only all able to exhibit when there's this open studio and they don't get more chance to. And then on top of that, it seemed even more bizarre because those artists that then did get in the gallery, this particular gallery I was in, they weren't even selling very much work. And then in the rare occasions they were, the gallery was taking half of the money, and it just didn't seem like it all worked out for everybody. And I felt like there was a different way of operating. In other industries, this kind of no commission thing was starting to come up. So I basically figured, well, there must be a way to apply this to the art world. And yeah, that's kind of how it got started. And it's been really cool, I think, going from that to where we are now. And one thing that has been really great is actually getting to know and work with a lot of the artists that we've had on the platform. And that's, it always comes back to that thing of, on that local art trail, those artists that need that opportunity, that are really making great work, just helping them to sell and get their stuff out there. That's really what drives me forward and what it's all about. So yeah, that's a potted history of how we got started on Cosimo.
That's amazing. That's certainly a great mission. I think we can certainly echo what you said. So many artists are voicing, how they're having some challenge either getting exhibition or getting sales. So it's awesome to have you committed to that cause. Caitlin, why don't you tell us a bit more about your story, how you got started as an artist? Take us through your journey.
Hi everyone, and obviously thank you for having me here. So I started as an artist as a kid. I just always loved drawing and painting, and my mum was an artist herself, and she was a nurse as well, so she was always getting us to do something creative. And then I hated school, was a bit of a rebel, didn't really like going in. So my mum said, go to art college. So then I went to college and I just loved it. I started in graphic design, and then I went on to after that did a foundation course in art and design. It's where I was just learning how to paint and making all these big, large, abstract pieces. Then I went to uni and I did fine art, and then I did my masters. And then from doing my masters, then I started exhibiting more, and I was getting out there. All my work is based from how we relate imagery to memories. So I use a lot of symbolism in my work as well, and that inspiration really came from being a young kid and looking through lots of art books and looking at these fantastic paintings all the time. So luckily this year I've had a fantastic year so far. I had a solo show in London at the beginning of the year, and then I exhibited in Christie's auction house, where I was commissioned there to make a mural. And this year's just been fantastic for me and my art. And next month I've been commissioned by Pink News to make a painting for them to be auctioned for Stonewall as well. So yeah, it's just been a fantastic year. It's been amazing. So it's nice to be able to kind of do these things as well and kind of reflect as well. So it's great.
It's awesome to see, how quickly things can evolve and how quickly you can, be on a very positive roadmap. So very happy to hear everything that's happening. Can you take us through kind of how you first started going about building your online presence, the different social media you might be using, websites, and so on? Tell us more about kind of what's your strategy and how you're going about these things.
Yeah, so I mean, I started off through Instagram, and when Instagram first came out itself, I really loved Instagram. And early on, I kind of realized how to, making sure that my work was readable, having good photos of my work and having it presented well. That was a key thing that, people started following more and, just posting and using certain hashtags. And I think it was more about, and then obviously spreading across different platforms as well. And, Twitter, Facebook, everything, like you were saying, everyone has a preferred platform. So making sure you target that. But yeah, I think what really helped grow my platform was doing shows in person as well. Like you mentioned as well, like, people want to see that you're a real person, that the work is real, it's on walls. That it's not just something that, is sitting in a studio or, somewhere. It's got to be, people want to believe that it's real. So I think that's the thing as well, is kind of having a perfect balance between real life and social, and making sure that you're up to date with what you're doing. People want to see, what shows you're in, where you're at. Yeah, being consistent. I think that was the thing. How I grew was just being consistent and, getting a lot of, press, everything. Just, I always think as an artist to kind of aim for, I set myself targets. So last year I knew that I wanted to do a solo show, and I wanted to do it in London. So I kind of set myself a target. But having targets, will help when it comes to building a platform, because then you're getting your work out there more. and people will know about who you are. So I guess just kind of aim for a show and try and get some press, and that will help. I always think you've got to kind of, one lends a hand to the other one. So just make sure that you're consistent throughout.
Yep, that's great. I think one of the biggest thing I've heard you say here is the importance of having goals and having a plan. And I think, you hear saying often, a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? And I think many people find themselves in these categories where, they may have a goal, but they may not write it down, and they may not really write a plan towards it. And they find themselves often in this cycle of, I'm not really getting what I want, and I'm not really sure why. I think your success story just talk about the importance of having a plan and working your plan. You have a pretty great personal brand. So can you tell us a bit about where do you get that inspiration and your style? You talk a bit about the memories that you have into your work. How does that translate into your overall style?
So originally I guess I'm trained as an abstract painter. So all my earlier work is just abstract. So that still kind of lends a hand into what I do. And, I'll always, painting is, my greatest love. So painting is something that I'll always do, and mixed media. And where my work really at the moment stems from is, how we view memories, how we view objects, imagery. We've all kind of one time in life inherited an object that reminds us of a family member, kind of playing on that, or when we listen to music and how we can relate it to a time in our lives, like that kind of mantra into painting. And that's where I kind of get my inspiration from. And I've always, I guess, with building a brand, what I kind of say to people is to kind of be authentic and paint what you want to paint. Don't just try and paint something, because, you think, oh, this will be popular. You've got to be authentic. And I think that's the best thing. I mean, throughout my career, I've done a lot of different things with my work, but the consistency is that I'm still doing work. So it doesn't matter if you want to paint landscapes 1 minute and then want to paint surrealism next. As long as you're clear about that as well to people and say, look, now I'm doing this. That's the kind of key thing. But, if you don't love what you do, then there's no point. If you're, years ago, I was represented by a gallery and they just wanted me to paint abstract paintings all the time. And I was selling them, but it wasn't making me happy. I wanted to expand. So I think that's the beauty of art, is just to be able to expand and, try new things. If you want to, start collaging into your work, do it. I think that's the thing. The brand is you. You've just got to kind of make sure that you're happy and you're passionate. As long as you're passionate and you're getting that across to people, they'll invest in you. That's the thing, is that it doesn't matter if you just want to paint landscapes or, whatever you want to paint, as long as you're true to yourself and you're passionate about what you do, then that's the best brand you can build.
Can I just jump in there? Because I think
go ahead.
Really, I think that's brilliant, Kevin, because I think we've just been putting together some content, around this sort of thing. And one of the things that came up in that is the best thing you can do is just get in the studio and make your work. And if you're doing that and you're trying new stuff and you're bringing new things into it and you're just being, artists are creative, and you go out there, be creative and do that. That's what you love doing. Then the content makes itself, because you've got new work to show people. You've got stories to tell them about how it happened, how it came to be. And then it just becomes a kind of, a virtuous cycle, and it all feeds into itself. But it just starts from going and making the art, which is, you can get lost in thinking about all the, oh my God, I need to do all this social media, I need to do the website, blah, blah, blah. But if you make good art, then the rest of it will fall into place. So I think that's some really good advice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Which kind of brings us to a bit of our next question. So we talked about what was important to have on your branding and to share, but when it comes to presenting your work online to optimize for sale, John, what would you say is important that, you know, the artist should communicate? They should write, these photos they should add, or specific text they should add when creating a digital record of their artwork online to help improve the sales. Any thought on that?
Yeah, no, I think it kind of comes down to similarly to what you're saying about there's different audiences and on different platforms, particularly on different platforms or different channels, putting stuff that's relevant to those channels. So on a platform like Cosimo, for example, you know, we try and make sure that this stuff's just input as part of your uploading process, but putting in the size and the price, like those things are obviously very important because people are there to buy. So those are the things they're thinking about. And in the description, giving a really kind of you know, the materials and the inspiration, all these sorts of things, instead of just saying, this is a painting I made, you know, tell people why you made it and what it's about, and you know, make that emotional connection that people are then going to combine with the sort of the data information, the price and the size, and it all comes together and go, okay, I'm going to click buy. But then, you know, like you were saying, on the other hand, if you're putting stuff on Instagram, it's a very different platform with very different outcomes. So, you know, create that content that's going to engage people, interest them, excite them. If you're creating email content, you know, again, like you said, have a very clear call to action at the end, with some stuff that's going to maybe make them take that step. So I think it's about being active, I suppose, in putting yourself in the shoes of whoever is looking at your work in that context, and then doing the best you can to try and put what you need to in there. And it's challenging because it's a lot of work sometimes, but in the long run, it should pay off because you know you build those relationships, you'll get across what you need to get across, and that will then eventually translate into sales.
And how does that information, what's displayed on an online marketplace, differ from what might be displayed on an in-person gallery?
So one of the things that I think it goes back to what Caitlin was saying about like the benefit of the in-person stuff is it's there, and if you can be there as well, then even better because you bring the whole thing to life, and people buy into the people behind the art as much as they do the artwork. So if they can connect with you, hear your story, then that's you know that's really valuable, and it takes a lot of the work out of the other bits you have to do online. But I think the next step from that is making sure you've got ways to then you've got the information and you're presenting yourself in the physical world in a way that can then link people to the digital world. So, you know, making sure if you're at a show, there's a way for people to find out more information through your website or to sign up to your mailing list, or, you know, you might run a competition at the show, you know, sign up to my mailing list and you might get a free print, something like that, just to incentivize people to get involved. Like those little kind of things of, you were talking JD earlier about, you know, moving audiences across through different stages. I think that's really kind of important and can be overlooked in that physical side because someone might not buy right now, but in 6 months, you know, they might have got a bonus and they need to fill that hole on the wall. So yeah, I think that's the main advice there is try and link the two digital and non-digital worlds together.
And that echoes quite well with what we've seen. So when we built Imprimo, some of the things that we've done is tried to make a lot of these things easy. So, you know, making the documentation of your profile with a combination of images and videos and professional timelines and things like that, so that whether you're speaking to a collector, a gallery, or someone, they're all getting the information that they want. We really tried to make that easy for everybody. And then using QR codes during physical exhibition for exactly what you said. You know, how I can see it live, but how can I see the rest of this artist? You know, sometimes you see a 5x7, that's all you see. Difficult to see. If you make it easy for them to see who you are, here's my online presence, here's my social channel, here's the rest of the work. You can really expand from that original in-person interaction. Now, and this might be a question for the two of you. John, you have probably more experience at scale, but I'm sure Caitlin, you have your own as well. What would you suggest? You know, trying to focus on selling locally. We know we touched on that. We gave that recommendation already. Or is it worth exploring, you know, other countries or going a bit further when trying to expand your network, expand your reach? What do you guys suggest based on your experience?
I'd say a mix. I mean, I live in the valleys in Wales, and you know, I mean, I've sold a lot of work locally, but everyone's different. Everyone has a different taste in what they like artwork wise. So I think, you know, at one point when it was lockdown, for instance, I was selling all my work to people in America online, you know. So I think online in itself is just such an amazing thing because it's so accessible to anyone. You know, someone could either, you know, walk past your work in a gallery and buy it there and then, or they can look later and buy that exact, you know, the same painting at home. I think it's best to be consistent with everything. You know, have artwork in the local gallery, but also have artwork that is being sold, you know, online. You know, having, I think consistency is like the main thing of everything with, you know, being an artist. But, you know, making sure that, you know, if you have prints, you know, prints in a shop or in a gallery nearby, and then having your more prints or the original on your website, I think that is the key. I think for me, the way I kind of built up to where I am now was doing everything. So just, you know, don't be scared to kind of, you know, do a show, you know, in the local community hall, for instance, and then, you know, be selling online. I think just do it all, be ambitious and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's
No,
great. Great
absolutely.
advice.
Yeah, and I think that the thing in there is like, again, that kind of be intentional with it. So like go to that local thing because you know that there's an audience who are going to back you because you're local. But then if you want to sell internationally, that's great. But like be set up for that, be ready to sell internationally. Like I said, shipping, sometimes I've known artists ship stuff across the world and then they end up losing money on the whole thing because it actually costs them more to ship than they sold the piece for. And so just being prepared for that. I think that's where, you know, we've taken the decision to be quite local as a platform initially, but that's because, you know, I see, you know, we see other art marketplaces in particular that shout about, okay, we've got a global network, you know, artists and buyers and collectors around the world. But for most artists, like you've got to build up to that, and it's, you know, and the local's a really nice way into building that community around you, building that collector base, and then, you know, like Caitlin's a great example of that. You know, you start to get a bit of a name for yourself locally, so then it gives the people who maybe, you know, in the bigger cities, if you know, like I'm from up in the Lake District, so it's a similar kind of thing, like, you know, that you get taken more seriously if you're in the bigger cities. But the way to do that is to prove that you've got a little bit of interest locally, and you can say to them, well, look, you know, I put on a show at home and we sold everything and people loved it. So I think that those are the kind of ways that you should kind of think about it in terms of, you know, the ambition and scale of doing that sort of thing. But like I say, be intentional with it.
Next question that I have, and I'll ask you, John, and maybe Caitlin, you have something to add too, but what are some mistakes that you see artists do when they first start selling online? You know, is there a few things that we can highlight to help the artists here maybe avoid some of these mistakes?
There's two. The one big one is probably the easiest to fix, really, as well, which is a good thing. But it's photographing your work. So many people, it frustrates me so much because, like I say, I was okay at art at school, but I wasn't the most talented person. I see all these really talented artists uploading their work to our platform and other platforms, and they're just taking really, you know, badly lit photos that they've just gone really quickly clicked and let's try and get it up. And they're not doing justice to the work and the time and the effort and the talent and all these sorts of things that play into it. And, you know, you, from my side, it's like, you know, you've got this amazing product, this artwork, get it across to the world in the best way possible. And Caitlin mentioned it earlier, like taking photographs is a really important aspect of building that brand and getting that recognition. And yeah, like I say, we're working on some content around this. Hopefully soon we'll have some videos very specifically telling you how to do this. But, you know, simple things. You know, even if you just have to do it, put it up on a white wall, diffuse soft lighting. You know, most phones have reasonable cameras now.
So there's no excuse. Put it on a tripod, take a load of photos so that at least you've got one version that isn't blurry. Little things like that. I think that photographs really, really basic, but really important. And then in a kind of more sort of sophisticated way, I suppose it's the writing about your work online. I think particularly on marketplaces like us, one thing we're really pushing at the moment is setting everything up to be search engine optimized. So don't just put like I said, that single sentence, here's a painting I made in 2023. Put the inspiration, put the materials, put the size, put the price, all this sort of information. It might take a little bit longer, but it'll benefit you not only within a platform like ours or your own website, for example, but it will then feeds into the whole ecosystem. So for our side, if the artist's work is listed well, Google looks at it and goes, oh, this is great, and it brings more and more people to the platform. And again, we're really about we're trying to help with this at the moment, but it's like how can we build something that benefits everybody? And I think that it's a really great way to get your own work out there, and to get it seen within platforms is to just make sure you're describing your work accurately and well, and don't try and use crazy verbose language. Talk in plain terms. That's what Google understands. It's what most people understands. And it's what actually results in sales, I think, is when people just say very clearly what this is and what the buyer's going to get, and with a little bit of story in there as well to close the deal. But yeah, that's my thoughts on where people could do better sometimes.
And what is your thought, Caitlin? Any advice for someone who's trying to maybe sell for the first time online, artist to artist?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I think finding, making sure things are clear. I always say the first thing you should do is make sure that you have good photos. Invest in, having a photographer come over. That was the best thing I ever did. Having, make sure you have your work photographed well. That it's industry standard, so you can make prints. You might sell that painting, but you can make way more money off that painting by making sure that you have prints. Making sure that if you're selling prints, get samples. Don't bulk buy 500 prints and then it comes and it's blurry and it's pixelated and you can't even do anything with that. Make sure that you buy samples. That was a big thing for me when I first started out, is making sure that I used to think, well, I can take a good photo, but it is all about lighting and having everything. I know I've got a record now of all my work that can be blown up to billboard size, which comes in handy because I can make, someone says I want an A1 print, that's fine. If someone wants a A5 print, that's fine as well. I think making sure that having everything to like an industry standard is, once you start doing that, you're flying and you'll be able to kind of sell prints, utilize what you do. If you have a painting that you love and that it's got a lot of attention, make sure that you get it photographed, scanned, and get prints on the go. Make sure that you're reaching all these different audience. Someone might want to buy the original, but someone might not be able to afford the original. But then I think in that sense as well is don't overcharge. A lot of people I know have had work in Cardiff, from that's my nearest city, and then they'll have a painting in London and they'll triple the charge. It's not about that. It's about how you are in your career and gradually building up those prices. If you haven't exhibited before and you try charge £1,000 for a painting, nobody will take you seriously. It's all about that gradual, and talk to galleries, talk to local people. What do you think, other artists, what do you suggest I should price this as? Getting your pricing right is a key aspect, because even if you don't sell the painting for £500, you'll definitely sell prints for £10. So it's, make sure you can market yourself. Think of yourself as a business. That's how I did. As soon as I started thinking myself as a business, then a lot of things changed for me. So, I would suggest talking to people about pricing and, how to get prints done, stuff like that. And, it'll soon kick off for you.
And Caitlin, you're helping some new artists who might be, needing some help. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I run a mentoring service, which is on my website through my Instagram, because when I first started, like I was saying, I did these rookie mistakes of, getting like 500 prints done and they come back pixelated and stuff like that. And, so I've helped a good few artists now. I've got some artists who are local in shows in London, which was really exciting. They haven't exhibited before. And now they're, having their first exhibitions in London, stuff like that, which is amazing. So I help people who are in any stage of their career, to kind of build up their platforms, build up, how to get their work framed, how to get their work photographed, where to get stuff for prints. So I kind of just use, my experience as an artist really to help people, and to kind of, with the services that I offer, it's more about, how can I help you? And, I'm not telling you kind of what to do. I'm just advising, and you can take my advice or you could leave it. But I just kind of, I know when I was a younger artist, I would have benefited from having, someone come in and say, this is how you do everything. And it's just things that I've learned along the way. And, how to, get into a show, how to apply for an open call, how to have like a good, headshot, stuff like that. What's the ways you kind of go about it, and, or just talking to artists who are, at a bit of a point in their career where they don't know what to do, as in where they want to go with their, work, or just having a bit of advice in, how they make work, and are they going the right way, or, how can I elevate this painting, for instance, stuff like that. So, it's really exciting, and, it's great to kind of connect with people and help people. I mean, one of my jobs as well, I go into hospitals and I work in the mental health units, and I think I've just got a bit of I just like helping people, through art. So I think, by offering kind of mentoring services, then it can just get people to, where I'm at with my career, and kind of speed up the process of, getting into shows and stuff like that. And I think if, having someone to kind of guide you is just kind of such a beneficial thing, really. So, I have a lot of people that I'm kind of helping. I think at one point I'd like to kind of maybe do a show with everyone that I'm mentoring, because I think that would be really awesome. But I think it just, artists should support artists. I think that's the main thing that I've met a lot of good people through just doing art. So just to kind of lift everyone up is important.